Hello guys, welcome back to another video. My name's ChiefDog24 and here we go into this one then. So still test season 2, but this time it's round, I think this was 4, around high speed ring, and it was the first race to have wet weather, and they also reintroduced what's it called, 20 players in a lobby, which was pretty good change as well. But here's the livery going to be using on the SLS Gr4 car. Both deliveries from today and yesterday's video, they are shared, so if you want to use them then you can. I think I made them editable as well, so if you want to use or change where the sponsors go, or I don't know, but if you can change the colour or not, but you can do that if you want to. Here's a fail I made while practicing though, but it actually looked pretty decent. It was a nice slide. I narrowly avoided the barrier up the top, and I had a light contact with the back barrier, which was fine though. But here we go into lobby 1 then, so second in this lobby, so clearly expected to do well out in the SLS, like I said. Only problem was though is I weren't going to do well because we had an error, a disconnect, so had to wait yet another hour, which felt like a year, but it did give me more practice, I guess. And we've gone into a new lobby now, which has which I'm top at, but that did destroy my DR, unfortunately, so it is in a bit of a low lobby. But making sure we've got the racing intermediates on for qualifying, and someone gets absolutely destroyed in the chat there. Don't worry, mate. I'm looking for you. I'm looking for you. But enough of that madness out the way. Let's get into qualifying then. So yeah, we've got split strategies here. Most people are on the intermediates, but a few have gambled it on the wets, few gambled on the racing hards. But as you can see by the radar, you sort of want to go on an intermediate lap, even though it's wet, sort of getting close to wet conditions. But the important thing is that you get a lap in now, because the track's just going to get worse from here. So using intermediates is salvageable, even though it's technically what I'd call wet weather conditions. But I think if you can get a lap in quickly enough, it's sort of like whoever crosses the line first is sort of going to be the pole steer here. So we want to try and get a good lap, as this guy in third just completely blocks me, going way too slow for my liking. And as you can see there, it's definitely at least intermediate conditions, so anyone that gambled on the racing hards is unfortunately gonna have a bit of a tough time. But here we go then. This is the qualifying lap, so you want to go sort of outside, inside, and then outside for this. Ignore what these two are doing. They're well, they obviously haven't watched Key's video. Thank you again, Key, for showing the line and being sort of the guinea pig here. You actually want to get a bit closer up to the top for that, but I was overtaking that Lamborghini, and I sort of hope the Subaru gets out the way as well. But yeah, thank you again, Key. He was sort of like the guinea pig for me in this video, because I watched him do the first race, and then I realised that you could get different weathers per race, so it didn't actually matter all that much that I waited. But nonetheless, the lap's looking, well, I'd say sort of bad, but like I said, it's sort of like you just want to get to the end as fast as you can. You also want to stay on a high line for this this corner too, so you can maximise the speed. So Up to the finish line we go then. It's a 1 minute 22.8, and that's good enough to keep us in second. You can see that the conditions are getting worse from like the water meter, so that tells you how much moisture is on the track. But clearly the conditions were getting worse, because slightly grazed the wall and then I'm sent spinning, and well, picking myself a nice 1.5 second time penalty, and then on the next lap I do the same thing, because I go on that deadly curb, which you should really avoid. It may make you a little bit faster in the dry, but in the wet it's horrendous. You just start spinning as soon as you go on it. So yeah, make sure you avoid that one, and make sure you take high lines through the longer corners. As we come in now to get a set of wets on, because it is wet tyre conditions basically, or at least I think it is. So we'll see if I can set a better lap time, but because I'm going on the wet tyre, I don't think I will be setting a better time. But still, I guess it's practice for the race as well, so in case these conditions do appear in the race. But yeah, as you can see, the definitely wet conditions. As soon as it goes up to that bit up there, it definitely means it's time for the wet tyre. But yeah, I couldn't improve, so starting P2 behind the Atenza. We'll see what we can do. But the important thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to switch to the racing heavy wet tyres, because I didn't want to gamble on the intermediates and then end up losing, because the weather conditions screw me over. But here we go then. This is the main race, this is the main event, this is what you've all been waiting for this high speed ring race around, well, high speed ring, believe it or not. As the final starts, revving out the engine so I can get the most the most fuel depletion, which will save you a bit of time. So man in first here in the Atenza, you got me in the SLS, another Atenza right behind us, which is probably the best car around here, as well as the BMW M4, that's also good. Cayman not so good, but he's somehow got its P5. Mitsubishi in 6th, Tenza in 7th. We got the Ford Mustang in 8th. We got Honda NSX2, Subaru WRX. He makes some really good overtakes in this. So you'll see him fly up the order there. That Subaru. We got 2 Lamborghinis as well. We got an M4 again. We've got a Peugeot RCZ. We've got another SLS. So unfortunately he hasn't done so well compared to me. We've got a Megane Trophy 2 and a Toyota Supra, and the Jaguar rounds out the grid. Here's the tyres which everyone was on. So the leader gambled on intermediates, I'm on the wets. Person behind is on the intermediates. Got intermediates, wets, wet tyres again, so lots of people on the wet tyre. Someone's gambled on a couple of people have gambled on the intermediates. Someone's gone the racing hard as well. That was the other SLS actually, so an interesting strategy to say the least, but well, you'll see by the radar that I do believe we've made the right call here. You can just see there as well, there's some patches of blue, which mostly means that the race conditions are going to get worse, and that the racing wet tyres are the tyre you want to be on. But to start on, I probably would say you need the intermediates, but like Lewis Hamilton said, it's not a marathon, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So let's hope we can get to the end of this marathon without too much chaos. But off the line, I wasn't expecting to go as well compared to the Atenzas, so I just knew that they were going to be faster, and well, it clearly shows, because the guy in first is already blasting away, and the guy in second, third even, is very close, but hopefully we can hold on for these 18 laps and get at least a decent performance from the car. But guy in third here is really close on my tail. Intermediates definitely are the best tyre for now, but throughout the race I think the wets will be the better option, and it was a safer option too, as the attender gets past us actually there. So yeah, we have lost a position, but again, trust me here, you need to you know, think about the long game, think about, or try and gamble on the long game as we go round the outside here on the final corner. A lot better than how that guy took it, and that is how you want to take it. But he might actually have a run back here actually, I don't know. I try and go a little bit defensive just to try and break the toe, but he sticks with us here, and all the while the guy in front is getting further and further away. He's already got it up to a 2.5 second gap, so while we want to keep the guy behind at an arm's length, we also want to try and make sure we can stick ahead with the guy in first. But here was a cockpit view overtake replay camera of that overtake I did. I love this camera angle, it's so good. Definitely a brilliant addition to GT7. All around it, I just love this that camera angle. But onto lap 2, you can see I have started to set a better time, setting the fastest lap actually, and the gap ahead is sort of similar, as we have a little bit of a moment there, and that has well, you can see there the conditions are starting to edge more towards the wet conditions here, but the guy in third has had a really good launch on us into turn 1, so we'll have to see if we can keep with him here, and try and switch back and see if I can perhaps get something into the braking zone here. But yeah, like I said, the Atenza is really good round here. It's good round every track really. It's completely broken in GR4, so patches do need to be made, but there's one thing to have a good car, there's also another thing to have good driver skill. So I decided not to make a move into that corner, because I just knew that he'd be able to get it back on this next corner, and instead I wanted to wait more for the start finish straight, to perhaps make an overtake there instead. But yeah, on to lap 3, like I said. Rain is almost on the border of wet tyres, so in fact when I go on this outside line where it's not perhaps so dry, as we now go for a move actually down the inside, we'll see if we can make that stick. But the Atenza still has good straight line speed. It's again a broken car overall in GR4. I'm not quite sure where the SLS ranks really, but it doesn't really matter actually, because I don't know if the guy aquaplaned or because of his intermediate tyres, or he just wasn't looking where he was going, or I don't really know, but he sort of just goes straight on and into the barrier, so I would assume that it was aquaplaning. And he actually gets himself a time penalty and has a bit of a moment as he tries to go back onto the track. But guy in first here also has collided with the wall and also has got a 1.5 second time penalty, so we should be able to get up into P1 here on lap 4, which is brilliant news for me and brilliant news for the the weather conditions here, as it basically is about time for wet. So unfortunately any intermediate runners that have tried to gamble on this tyre, it's not worked out for them at all really, and they're definitely going to be struggling in the race unless they decide to box. but of course that would lose them a lot of time as well. So up into first now as we come around the final corner on lap 4 here. I didn't take the best line, but I sort of didn't need to because the guy's over 1.8 seconds behind. There you go again, just confirming the weather conditions are heavy wets. At least that's what I would say you should put on. And that has allowed some drivers behind that were perhaps a bit lower down in the standings to get up. Like I said, look at the Subaru, he's the person in 5th currently. In fact, yeah, even 3rd and 4th, they were like 8th and 7th at the start, I think. So those three have had a brilliant start, really, and they could very easily begin to pressure me. The guy in 3rd is now down to 6th, so he's obviously had problems, most likely with the penalty he had to serve. Actually, that probably explains it there. But yeah, just all around a pretty strategic race. Hasn't necessarily been the most entertaining so far, but you know, sometimes you just have to take these wins here, based off of your racing line or the tyre strategy that you were on compared to the other cars. So that's sort of how we've managed to pull ahead here and start to pull away, at least, as we actually set the fastest time there. So this was the move though, looking in on the move against the Atenza there. That was quite a few laps earlier on. On to lap 8 now though, and well, weather conditions are still heavy wets, I'd say, although there does seem to be a few patches which are a bit more grey, or no, what I mean is there's not as much weather. When I say I mean grey, what I meant to say is that there's not a sea of cyan blue, because that indicates light rain, and then the darker blue is the heavier rain. And you also want to look at the moisture meter next to the tyre compound that we're on. But here's a replay actually. So this was the guy in 2nd, and you might have noticed that there was a lot of time being lost with this guy, and that's mostly all down to this. So for some reason he went on the grass a bit, and then he has just, I don't really know, like maybe aquaplaning again or something, because he takes a horrible line there, and that has allowed 3rd and or Andy and Ryan, as it were, to get positions up here. So yeah, just confirming close up that it's time for wet conditions, and even there's heavy wet rain on the track as we speak. That's what the dark blue means, like I said. But the fight for 2nd here has definitely been interesting too, as we have the Ford Mustang here against the yet another Atenza. So clearly just showing the Atenza is the better car, and even with the Subarus having a look for a move on the guy that was in 2nd. So he's lost out big time, but Subaru's gone very wide there actually. But it is a close-knit fight still, to be fair. But the 3 people there are all in like the front 3 at least are all on wet tyres, whereas the guy behind is unfortunately on the intermediates. And like I said, his race is only going to get worse from here, because well, it's wet conditions, so you're going to be couple of seconds a lap slower per lap, so not ideal for them. But the Subaru here could make a move on the Mustang here, so could shake up the order here. He could be on for a 3rd position as he goes down the inside for this corner, though it's a very long corner. and has to leave space for the Mustang, as the Mustang gets incredibly close to the wall, but is able to get out in front here, just in front of the Mustang. Is the well, the Subaru gets behind the Mustang, is what I'm saying. But it was a pretty easy race for me, if I'm being honest. It was not an easy race for third though, because it says third and I'm about to lap him actually. So he has not had a good race at all. He definitely wants to go again. But for us, it's been a front running race. I was able to get the gap to like 10 or 18 seconds in front at one point, but then like over the last few laps, Andy was actually really close to being able to get in front of us, but none of that matters, because we finally came across the line here for the final lap, all 18 done, and that is the first position for us. That is the result that I wanted, 4 seconds ahead of the guy in second in his Atenza. And like I said, you needed to focus on that guy in the Subaru, because he did incredibly well to get 4th, starting in 10th I think, so he went up 6 positions, and the guy in 3rd, he's well, 1st actually is what I meant to say, he ends up finishing in 10th, so it has not been a good race for him. It's not been a good race for 3rd, and I can confirm, guys, that the person on the racing hard tyre did not come in the top 10. He came, well, I basically lapped him, so he did not have a good race at all, and unfortunately that sort of is the gamble which you can take when you're on the racing hards, when it's intermediate or wet conditions, and unfortunately the dice did not roll in his favour, so unfortunate for him, but doesn't all that matter much to me. He probably wishes that he was in my SLS instead, because it was the SLS runner, the other SLS runner, which came 15th. There you go, a lap behind. So unfortunate for him, but that is actually my first victory on a Gran Turismo, and what a better way to do it than none other in the Manufacturers Series, where it of course all counts, and we actually get a clean race bonus as well, which will boost my credit and my mileage, not mileage bonus, just credit bonus. So 84 grand there, and I think that might have even been before the patch as well. I'm not quite sure though. It might have been a little bit before or a little bit after, I'm not quite sure, but yeah, putting in GG's in the chat, because you know we're respectful like that. And we end up getting 34 points as well, so wasn't as good as last round, unfortunately, but I sort of didn't expect to get too many points, because of course our lobby did drop a bit when we got the disconnect, which was no fault of my own. That's just the Gran Turismo servers, unfortunately. At the moment they're just not brilliant, but you know, they'll fix that, I'm sure they will, but it just, you know, may take a bit of time, but all top 3 of us saying good race and GG to each other. So that's going to call it a close though for this video. Thank you all for watching, and once again you can see I'm in the well, my local rankings is first, which is what we like to see there. But yeah, if you did enjoy this video, then be sure to hit the like button. If you want to see more content, remember I'm going to make a video tomorrow about the race, which is tomorrow, which is going to be at Monza, so make sure you stay tuned for that. You can comment on anything you enjoyed below as well, but till then, this has been Chief Dog 74. and I'll make sure to see you guys tomorrow, right? Yeah.